I'm gonna show to you the chess game between Abasov and Gukesh in FIDE Candidates 2024, round number 12. Let's begin on G4, Knight F6, C4, E6, Knight C3, Bishop B4. This is Nimzo India defense, my fellow chessers. So Queen C2, H6, Knight F3, C5, G takes C5, Knight A6, G3, Knight takes C5, then Bishop G2. This is Nimzo Indian defense classical variation, my fellow chessers. So Knight C E4, castles king side, then Knight takes C3, B takes C3, Bishop C5. Ooh, targeting the F2 squares. E4. Knight H7, E5 advancing the pawn, E5 advancing the pawn on E file. So Rook B8, Knight D2. What's the planning of Knight D2? Preferring for Knight B3 or Knight E4, something like that. So B6, Knight E4, Bishop B7 attacking the Knight on E4, H4. Ooh, H4. Then Queen C7 attacking the pawn on E5. Rook D1, Bishop takes E4, Queen takes E4. Oh, but you have a question in this position. What if you take the pawn on E5? Queen takes E5. We have Bishop F4. As you can see, my fellow chessers, pinning the queen on rook on b8. So let's continue on. Bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, queen takes e4. That's why you do not take this. Okay, you do not take that, my fellow chessers. So let's continue on. Bishop takes e4, queen takes e4, and then castles king side, and then bishop f4, rook fd8, and then rook d2. Oh, preferring for battery, my fellow chessers. Knight f8, and then h5, b5, then c takes b5, rook takes b5, and then bishop f1 attacking the rook on b5, my fellow chessers. So let's continue on. Rook b6, and then rook a d1. Ooh, battery, my fellow chessers. This is a battery, as you can see, like a battery, my fellow chessers. So let's continue on. Rook db8. Ooh, battery again in b file. So a4, then rook b3 attacking the pawn on c3, attacking the pawn on c3, and then rook d3, rook a3. That's the plan why rook b3 is and rook a3 attacking the pawn on a4, rook f3, rook f3. What's the planning on rook f3? Preparing for rook d3, something like that. So let's continue on. Queen c6. Ooh, challenging the queen, the white queen, my fellow chessers. So let's continue on. Queen takes c6, and then d takes c6, and then rook f d3. What's the idea of rook d3? Battery. So let's continue on. Rook takes a4, bishop g2 attacking the pawn on c6. So rook a2, my fellow chessers. Rook a2 attacking the pawn on f2. As you can see, my fellow chessers, this is why rook a2 is coming. rook 1 d2, my fellow chessers. Rook takes d2, rook takes d2, and then rook c8. Ooh, defending the pawn, my fellow chessers. Okay, my fellow chessers. So rook bishop e4, my fellow chessers. What is the idea of bishop e4? What's the idea? Let's continue on. a5, bishop c2, g5 attacking the bishop on f4. So let's continue on. H takes g6. Good move, my fellow chessers. And then knight takes g6. Ooh, king g2, and then king g7, bishop a4. What's the idea of bishop a4? Preventing the a4 and at the same time attacking the pawn on c6. Oh, knight e7. Ooh, knight e7 defending the pawn. Defending the pawn. C4, my fellow chessers. C4 is mistake. The best continuation on this position is rook a2, my fellow chessers. Ooh, rook a2 or rook c2, my fellow chessers. So let's continue on, or rook b2. So let's continue on. C4, my fellow chessers. C4 is a mistake. Rook b8, rook b8, rook a2, bishop b4. What's the idea of bishop b4? Well, okay. The idea of bishop b4 defending the pawn on a5. So let's continue on. King f3, rook d8, bishop e3, rook d3, my fellow chessers. Good move by Gukesh. So king e2, mistake. The best continuation on this position is king g4. King g4 is the best position, continuation and this position, so let's continue on. King e2, mistake. Rook c3, attacking the pawn on c4. c5, ooh, advancing. So knight d5, good move by Gukesh, my fellow chessers. So rook c2, challenging the rook on c3, and then rook takes c2, and then bishop takes c2, a4, king d3, a3. Ooh, as you can see, 1-2 moves only, my fellow chessers. So bishop b3, ooh, king g6, then bishop g4, and then king to g5, and then king c4, bishop e1, attacking the pawn on f2, and then king d3, king g4, bishop d1 check, king g5, bishop b3, and then king f5, king c4, and then king e4, bishop d1, a2, ooh, d2, f3 check, and then king f5, bishop c2, king g5, bishop b3, then bishop takes g3, bishop takes a2, h5. After h5, Abasov resigned the game, my fellow chessers. Why? As you can see, my fellow chessers, if you continue the game, bishop on b1, and then h4, and then bishop to d3, king f4, and then what's next? Bishop e4. The h pawn is unstoppable.